Do not interfere with karmas. Go beyond, be a witness to them, take them as a dream, not real. Just look at them with indifference. Do not get involved. Your body suffers. Look at the suffering. Your body is happy. Look at the happiness. But do not get identified with it. And that is what really meditation means. You are simply a witness to all that is happening, not involved in it. And do not find any alibis, no excuses. Do not say that it can be argued. You can argue anything. You are free to. But remember, argument leads nowhere. Arguments are suicidal. You can argue against yourself, and you can create an argument which is not going to help you, which is not going to transform you. No argument can transform you. Rather, which is going to become, rather, all arguments are going to become obstruction in the process of transformation. But by human nature, we go on arguing. And we find argument is one of the most important aspects. A Buddha does not argue. Osho mentions an incident which is very relevant for us to understand. He says that a girl came to him. She asked him, in his own words, a girl came to me and she asked, tell me if there is God. She was ready to argue that there is no God. In the words of Osho, I looked at her face, her eyes. This is what each master does. When you ask a question, he looks at your face, looks through the face, goes inside you to see where this question, this argument is arising from. And then he begins. She was tense, filled with argument. She wanted to fight about the point, give all her energy. Really deep down, she wanted that there is no God. Because if there is God, you are in trouble. If there is God, then you cannot remain whatsoever you are. Then a challenge comes. God is a challenge. It means you cannot be satisfied with yourself. Something higher than you is possible. A higher state, an absolute state of consciousness is possible. That is what God means. God means a higher state of consciousness, not a person as it is conceived, sitting somewhere, guiding you. No. It is your ultimate possibility of fruition. A higher state, an absolute state of consciousness. So she was ready to argue, and she said, I am an atheist and I don't believe in God. I told, if there is no God, how can you not believe in Him? and God is irrelevant. Your belief and your disbelief, your argument for or against is related to you. It is not related to God. Why are you concerned about it? If there is no God, why have you traveled so long, and why have you come to me to argue about something which is not? You know that there is no God, then why do you want to go into argument? Why have you come here to argue about something which you know is not? The same thing happened with Buddha. A man came to argue that I do not believe in God, and I know there is, you also don't believe in God. So why, if you believe there is no God, why do you want to argue? Why do you want a confirmation? Forget and forgive him. Go your home. Don't waste your time. If he is not, then why are you worried? Why is this effort to prove that he is not? You already know, you already believe that there is no God. This effort shows something about you, something about your, something that you are afraid about. If God is, then it is a challenge, because he is your ultimate fruition, ultimate possibility. If God is not, then you can remain whatsoever you are. There is no challenge in life. God is the ultimate challenge in life to transform yourself. Theism means you have a higher possibility to blossom to that. A seed, for the seed, God exists as flower, because he is aware of his potentiality that I can blossom as a flower. The person who is afraid of challenge, risk, danger of changing himself, of mutation, will always deny that there is God. Only the person who is afraid of challenges, afraid of changing himself, afraid of mutation, will always deny the presence of God. The denial is in his mind. The denial shows something about the person, not about God. I told her that God is not a thing which can be proved or disproved. God is not an object about which you can take some opinion or against it. God is hidden, inherent possibility within you. The possibility that is hidden in the seed is flower. So flower is God, the ultimate possibility of fruition. In the same way, there is a hidden possibility of fruition. And that is what God is. God is your ultimate potential. God is not an object about which you can take an opinion or against the opinion. Flower is not a subject of argument. You know, when the seed blossoms, it blossoms into flower. It will not do anything else. You are the seed and God is the flower, the ultimate flower. You can argue that there is no God, Go ahead and do it. You can argue for that there is God. You can argue against that there is no God. But will that lead anywhere? If this seed argues that there is no flower, I am not the flower, but the flower is hidden in the seed. Only when the process begins, then seed becomes aware of its potentiality. Yes, I knew I was a flower. But you are from the very beginning. The problem with the man is that he has a mind, and mind comes in between his potentiality and possibility. You are the potentiality, God is the possibility in you. Possibility of transformation. Can you argue against your possibility or your capability or your intelligence that I do not have intelligence to become this? Or you can argue against it. Can you? Can you argue that I am stupid or I am not stupid? You will feel offended. You are the seed, the possibility, and the fruition. You are the potentiality, and the potentiality that contains within its womb a possibility of blossoming into something else. Can you argue that you were not a child, and child was the possibility of youth in you, but it happened, that process continued, and the child in you became youth. But why do you deny that possibility? You argue that God is not, and because of this you never travel towards Him. If the seed denies and says that there is no flower, then it will not, the process. If the gardener argues that there is no flower hidden in it, the entire process of cultivation will not begin. Cultivation is the sadhana, the austerity, the process from possibility to fruition. If the gardener does not work for the process of for the possibility to become fruition, there will be no grain available to you. There will be no food available to you. You will starve. Won't you? The moment you realize that there is a hidden potentiality, talent in you, you can do this. Only then the process of austerity or sadhana or whatsoever you call your religion calls will begin. Whatever religion you follow, that does not matter. It's a process from exploring your potentiality and making it the ultimate reality. Isn't it? In the seed, the wheat is the possibility. But seed cannot argue. You can argue, that's why you remain what you are. If you realize that I have a potentiality, and what the master does, like a gardener, he makes you aware of your potentiality and initiates the process from potentiality to fruition. Many times you do not agree when something is told to you. You delay the process. The moment you are told something, you start working on it. Because already when you are told something, it has already seen the process has to begin and this has to happen to you. We talk about the outer is the manifestation of the inner. A beautiful statement of Swami Vivekananda. The reality lies within, outside is a mere expression. This is theory for you. Has it become a reality for you? Have you brought your inner reality into the outer world? Your meditativeness, your bliss, your joy into the outer world whatsoever you are doing. Are you meditative when you are cooking? Are you happy when you are entering into the outer world after the state of meditation? And you continue to remember and chant this particular sutra or particular zikr or mantra. Your scripture says this, that is holy cow dung. Unless you are aware of it and you know the process of bringing the inner potentiality that you have experienced in meditation into the outer world. That's why my oft-used slogan is cooking lovingly, cooking meditatively, cooking for Buddhas. Do you cook that way? No. Do you perform any act out of the inner taste of bliss? That's why it is said, before you go into the act of sex, be meditative. Let your meditativeness flow into the act of sex. Then it will have a possibility to transform you. Then you don't need to argue whether there is God or not. God is not a person sitting somewhere. Instead, it is the hidden possibility in you. There is a potentiality in you which is hidden. You are not aware what you are capable of, and that you will never be aware of what you are capable of until the process begins. The process of sadhana, the process of meditation, or whatsoever name you want to give it to you, give it to it. You never travel. Because how can you travel towards a point which is not? How can you travel towards God when you already have decided that there is no God? So you remain the same. And when you remain the same, you never meet, you never encounter God. You have never trusted your potentiality. How can you meet your fruition? How can you say that you can create this beautiful dish unless you trust your potentiality, capability, the inherent, the hidden capability in you? Only then you become a master chef. You become a master musician. You excel in the field that you are in. And when you remain the same, you never meet, you never encounter God. You never come to any feeling, to any vibration from Him. Then it is proved more for you that there is no God. If I say to you, there is no possibility for you to transform, you will feel offended. And the more it is proved, the more you are far away, the more you are falling, the more gaps will go on increasing. So it is not a question of whether God is or not. It is a question of whether you want to grow or not. I am not interested in whether God is or not, whether you are theist or atheist. My only point is whether you want to grow or not. I am not concerned or interested in that. Whether have you explored your potentiality? Are you aware that there is a potentiality? If somehow this seed could speak its autobiography, it will doubt its potentiality. It will doubt its capability, just as you doubt your capability. Unless someone tells you, or you trust the man, trust that person, yes, I can do it. Yes, I too can do it. This too can happen to me. I was like you one day, stumbling in darkness. I saw while passing through a graveyard, on an epitaph it was written, "Look at me, O passers-by. Look at me, O passers-by, as you are now, I was ever. As you are now, I was ever. As I am now, you will be." The same thing a master tells you. Once I was like you, stumbling in darkness, looking for a black cat in a dark room. Now, I have blossomed. I am a proof that what has happened to me can happen to you as well, once you follow the process. If you grow, your total growth will be the meeting. Your total growth will be the communion. Your total growth will be the encounter. So you have to begin the process. It is not a question of whether God is or not. The question is of whether you want to grow or remain as it is. If seed could speak, when the gardener comes and takes the seed out of the cupboard to plant, seed can deny, "No, I don't believe in the wheat or in the flowers." There is no flower because you cannot see that you are flower. That's why you are arguing. You cannot see that you do not have godliness in you. Someone has to remind you, and again keep on hammering into you. Then somehow, someday, you trust him. Yes, I too can do it. There is an important anecdote. One windy morning, just as the spring was coming to an end, a small started traveling towards on a windy morning, just as the spring was ending, a snail started traveling upward on a cherry tree. Some sparrows which were just on the neighboring oak started laughing because it was not the season and there were no cherries on the tree. And this poor snail was making so much of an effort to reach the top. So the sparrows laughed at his expense. That is what happens to each one of us. Your journey begins like a snail. Then one sparrow flew down and came very near to the snail and said, "Darling, where are you going? There are no cherries yet on the tree. It's not the season of blossom. Darling, where are you going? Do you know there are no cherries on the tree?" But the snail never even paused. She continued her upward journey without a break, without pausing. The snail said, "But they will be there by the time I reach. My pace is very slow." That is, with each one of you, each disciple is like a snail. But the journey has to continue like a snail. A snail continued. But they will be there when I reach. They will be there when I reach there. It will take a long time for me to reach to the top. And by that time, cherries will be there. What a certitude. God is not. God is not. But He will be there by the time you reach. God is not there. But by the time you reach at a snail's pace, He will be there. It is not something which is already there. Is not God is just as the snail said. The sparrow said, "There are no cherries yet. Why are you going?" The snail said, "It will take long time for me to reach. By the time I reach, God, His cherries will be there." The snail in you, in a seeker, says, "I know there is no God, but by the time I reach there, God will be there, and I will encounter that." It is not something which is already there. It is never there. God is your inner growth. It is your own growth. When you reach to the point where you are totally conscious, the moment you are totally conscious, that consciousness that has blossomed out of you is God. When I told you something, and at a snail's pace you began the journey, by the time you reach there, the God was there. There is no need to argue. Rather than wasting your energies in arguing, use your energies in transforming yourself like a snail. Continue the journey without pausing, without stopping. And energy is not much. And if you divert your energies into argument, you can become a genius in arguing. But you will be wasting your energies. It is at the great cost, because the same energy that is being used in argument can become meditation. You can become a logician. You can give very logical arguments. You can find very convincing proofs or disproofs, but you can remain the same. There will be no transformation in you. Your arguments are not going to change you. Has your arguments did any good to you as yet? No. Remember one thing. Whatsoever changes you is good. Whatsoever gives you growth, expansion, increase in consciousness is good, is worth. Whatsoever makes you static, whatsoever protects your status quo is not good, is fatal, is suicidal. You have to change your status quo. And something that changes your status quo is good. And that which changes your status quo is your growth, your expansion, your consciousness. And whatsoever makes you static, whatsoever protects your status quo is suicidal. Be aware of it. Enough.